Everyone, my name is Barb Bruno. I want to welcome you to our webinar today, which is entitled Your Team Could Produce More, But Will They? I notice that we have many new people on this webinar, and so I just want to take a moment to introduce myself to you and to thank you for being here today. I have been in the staffing and recruiting profession for a number of years, and I have been a trainer for 20 of those years and speak at many corporate events. I speak at many talent acquisition conferences. I've also done 16 courses for LinkedIn Learning on recruiting. I'm currently writing a book for a publishing company that will be out next year called High Tech, High Touch Recruiting. And what I've realized is that everything is changing, and it's changing so fast that we really have to, keep up on what's going on. I mean, it's just crazy how the recruiting profession has changed over the last several years. And so what I'm hoping is that the training that we're providing for you today will basically give you some information that you can leave with and implement and actually help yourself and the people that work for you become more successful. Most owners and managers that I know or HR professionals know that their team is capable of higher levels of success. However, there is a great differential between what a person can do and what a person actually will do. I found myself as a business owner often saying, like, I know I get so frustrated when I have people working for me and I'm thinking, God, they're just not working up to their potential. If they would just give it a little more effort, they could do so much more. But it's important to realize also that not everyone has the capability of becoming a top producer. Everyone that works for you could place more people in jobs. Everyone that works for you could be more successful. But there's a price to pay. And I find that there are some individuals that are just not willing to pay the price to reach a total different level of success. I think that, people have different financial thermostats. They have different wants and needs. And again, it can be frustrating for those of us that are supervising people in the recruiting profession, but I don't believe that you could ever make somebody a top producer. I think you hire them. And it's funny, we do such a great job of hiring people for our hiring managers and our clients. But often when we're going out there and trying to hire recruiters, we don't hire high achievers, and then we wonder why they're not producing or as successful as we want them to be. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out there and hire somebody who's currently a top producer in our profession. I have never hired a recruiter that has experience. And the reason I don't personally is because I train recruiters. And I'd rather take somebody who's a high achiever and someone that wants to sell, because we can call our title very different things. And it's interesting because when I went into this, I was laughing the other day. I was thinking about this. Everybody was in personnel, and then it changed to human resource, and now it's talent acquisition. And on the staffing and recruiting side of the business, what you do doesn't even resemble what you did 5 years ago. And I just think it's tough when you hire somebody often that has recruiting experience, because then you have to get rid of the bad habits and basically teach somebody the way that you want them to work. What I am suggesting, though, is that you hire and you identify and retain individuals who have a history of high achievement throughout their lifetime. If someone is a self-motivated high achiever, they're going to do the same exact thing for you. And I would like to answer for you the questions I most frequently receive from owners and managers and people in the talent acquisition profession. And I've just completed 17 conferences so far this year, and I have 9 conferences in the next 7 weeks. And it's interesting because I also do in-house training for corporations as well as staffing and recruiting firms. And so I always write down, what are people asking most? What are the biggest issues that everybody is having? And I thought that right now, at the beginning of the last quarter of the year, this training is so important for all of you, because what you do right now is setting up 2020. And it is predicted that 2020 to 2030 is going to be one of the most challenging decades for the recruiting profession and the talent acquisition profession, but it's also going to be when everybody needs us more than they've ever needed us before. And that's because of the lack of top talent and the major shift that's going on in the marketplace right now. There has never been a shift like there is right now going on in the workplace. Every day, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring. Every day, 10,000 millennials and Gen Z are starting to turn 21 years old. And as of 2020, 50% of the workforce are going to be millennials, over 50%. Right now, they're the majority. But in January, over 50% of the workforce worldwide are going to be millennials. And so, you're looking at the generation that has been in charge of the workforce, for most of history. The baby boomers, they're retiring and they're being replaced by a generation that is 20 million members stronger than the baby boomers. And the interesting thing is you're also going to have millennials as your hiring authorities and millennials as your clients. And so that shift is going on, and there is so much more competition for talent. And it's estimated that in the next 10 years, the only country that is going to have enough people to do the work that needs to be done is India. Every other country, in the world is going to have a shortage of talent except India. Now let's talk about the questions that I get most when I'm at conferences. And I always believe in taking questions. So I'm going to do that as well on this call. Any questions that you have for me, I'm going to open the lines for questions at the end of this call. I'm also recording this call. I'm going to give you a ton of information. And it's very difficult to write down everything that I'm saying. And so what I'm going to do is when this call is done, any of those of you that registered for the call, you're going to get the recording of this call if you want to go back and listen to it. So don't worry if you're not able to write down everything that I'm saying. When I participate in webinars, I'm always so frustrated when, I don't have the information and I'm trying to write down everything the speaker is saying. So we will send you the recording. So let's get to the questions that I'm most frequently asked. Number one is, how do I keep my sales team motivated? Well, you cannot motivate someone who has made the choice not to be motivated. Any of you that have children, I have 5 children. And I remember when they were in, not preschool, junior high, I didn't even know who they were. And so if any of you have children, you have, day-to-day experience on how you can't motivate someone who doesn't want to be motivated. But what you can do is you can identify what's most important to the people who work for you, the people that you employ. If your sales team, if your recruiting team understand what's in it for them, they will motivate themselves. People do things for their own reasons. So do you and I. But the best thing all of you could do right now, and I want you to write this down because this isn't even on the PowerPoint and it's not in the handout. The best thing you could do right now is sit down with the team that works for you and ask them, what kind of goals do you want to hit in 2020 in all areas of your life? Like, when it comes to career, when it comes to personal, health, education, philanthropic, spiritual, whatever is important to the people that work for you. Because if you can find out what's most important to them, then you'll know what you can do that will motivate them for their own reasons. If you run any contests or incentives, you're going to know where to put them, because if you can help somebody attain a goal that they set, they'll be motivated. Now, when you have your team write down 10 goals for 2020 in all areas of their life, like I said, personal, education, career, financial, whatever areas are important to them, it's not enough to write down 10 goals. They have to follow each goal with 5 dated action items. And so they take the goal and they look at the goal they're trying to achieve next year, and then they ask, what are the 5 things I have to do to make that goal happen? So what are the 5 action items, and have them date the action items. So I'm going to do this by the end of the year. I'm going to do this by January 15th. I'm going to do this by the end of February. They have to date the steps, because if you don't break a goal down into steps, they're never going to attain the goals. And you as their manager are not going to know what to do to help them achieve their goals. And you have to understand something with this shift going on in the population, going from it being controlled, the workforce being controlled by the baby boomers, to being dominated by the millennial generation. And now Gen Z is coming up. You've got to make changes in the way that you manage individuals that work for you, the way you hire, the way you talk to people. It's a different generation. And, I employ, a number of millennials, and it's interesting because I have firsthand knowledge and I train thousands of them. And I do train differently, even LinkedIn Learning, those courses I've done for LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn chose me 3 years ago to do recruiter training for them. And when I was training for them 3 years ago, the videos, everything is video. The videos were 7.5 to 10 minutes long. I'm going back there on the 20th of this month, and I'm recording 2 new courses for them. And it's interesting because now the course can't be more than 750 words, and it has to be under 3.5 minutes, because that's what what they've decided works. I find that very interesting. And so even LinkedIn is changing the way that they're training. Contests will motivate your team. You can run contests, but things have to be simple, short, and they have to be designed around the wants and needs of your team. Often flexible hours, time off, casual days are motivators that you can put out there that don't cost your company anything and yet can motivate your team. But again, you've got to look at who works for you, what age bracket, what would motivate them. And if you want to know what would motivate them, just ask and they'll let you know what's most important to them. Number two, the second question I get all the time is, what can I do to help my team excel? The most important assistance you can provide are numbers, stats, and ratios, because everyone that works for you has individual ratios. And too often we look at recruiting as human resource, or we look at recruiting as consulting rather than as a sales job. We're selling every day of our life when you're a recruiter. You're selling opportunities to candidates, you're selling candidates to hiring authorities. You're looking for those candidates that are not only going to be hired, but they're going to be engaged and retained. When I'm in front of corporate audiences, I just did a huge conference, an international conference in Seattle a month ago. And these were business people from all over the world. And when I asked them, what are your top concerns? And I think I had almost 1,500 people in the audience. And without a doubt, it was attracting talent, but it wasn't only attracting talent, it was engaging them and retaining them. And so every recruiter that works for you has numbers. How many people do they interview before someone gets an interview with one of your hiring authorities? How many interviews happen before someone's actually hired? Recruiting is a sales profession. Sales is a numbers game. Once the members of your team know their ratios, now they know what results they need every day to achieve the goals. If they're trying to fill 2 or 3 acquisitions or job orders or contracts or temp assignments in a given week, they have to know how many people they have to interview, how many people they have to present, how many interviews they have to book, because again, you've shown them their numbers. If you have a team member who's not producing daily results, the worst thing you can do is tell somebody to make more calls, because they don't want to hear that. You've got to listen to what the people are doing that work for you, so you can make small adjustments that can improve their results. I had a corporation recently admit to me that they don't have hardly any referrals of candidates. I was in one of the largest IT staffing and recruiting firms recently, and it was the same story. They're not getting referrals from the candidates that they're talking to. And so I said, how are you asking for referrals? And everybody's doing it the same way. Who do you know that would be interested in this job? Who do you know that you could refer? And so I just gave them 6 words. And again, write these 6 words down, because these 6 words will also help you get many, many more referrals. Write these 6 words down, and it's from your last place of employment. If you ask anybody that you're talking to, who was the best engineer from your last place of employment? Who was the best secretary from your last place of employment? Who was the best scientist from your last place of employment? You're not going to have people say, I don't know anyone, because of course they do. But when you're asking people for referrals, they think they're referring their competition, or they don't know and trust you. So they're not going to give you referrals. But if you ask any human being, who was the best whatever job title from your last place of employment, you're going to get a name. And so that will greatly enhance your recruiter's abilities to find more people. And that helps them excel. You've got to listen to what they're doing and sometimes give them a 6-word phrase or a 10-word phrase that can change what they're doing. If you don't like the results of the people that are working for you, you don't like the results that they're achieving, they can't do things the same way and expect different results. And if they keep making the same calls, even if they double the number of calls or double the number of in-mails or double the number of whatever, if they're not making the right calls, if the in-mails are not being read. Right now, I was at a technology conference three weeks ago, and it is estimated that 81% of all email are never opened. It depends on your subject line. Do you have an email policy in your company? Do you know when they should be answering and responding to emails? Do you always change the subject line when you send an email? There's so many email tricks now to get your email to be in that under 20% that's open. InMail, LinkedIn's very worried about InMail because most InMail are being ignored. You know why? Because you're pitching a job. and people are sick of being pitched a job. That doesn't work in today's marketplace. If you're pitching a job to candidates, you've got to stop doing that right now and instead have a career discussion. Things have changed. And if you want your sales team to excel, you've got to keep up with new techniques and new things that are being used that work. And like I said, technology has changed the recruiting profession forever. But the reason my book next year is going to be high tech, high touch is we've lost the high touch. If your team is only corresponding with text and email and voicemail, they never have a conversation, they've convinced themselves that that's the only way people will respond. That's not going to work long term. Recruiting and talent acquisition is still a relationship building business. It has been and always will be, and maybe we're not comfortable talking to people, but you've got to if you want to have a record year next year and you want to do better in your career. How do you get somebody out of a slump? Have you ever had somebody that worked for you? They were filling job orders and contracts and assignments and requisitions like crazy, and now they're saying there are no candidates out there? Well, what I want to say to you is if every time someone says to you, it's so hard to find people, you have to look at that person and say, and you better thank God tonight that it is hard, because that's why you have a job. Because there's never been a better time for somebody to be in the recruiting or talent acquisition profession than right now. Because the problem, everybody's going after the same 15%. Job board ads, website postings, SEO, all the things that are being done out there right now are only attracting 15% of the workforce. Those are people who are in an active job search. As recruiters, we surface the other 85%, the people that are working, that are passively looking, but would make a change if they were, had the right opportunity. If you want someone to get out of a slump, you've got to know what results they need on a daily basis. I also want to address the issue of individuals who may have quit and stayed. If you're paying somebody and you're paying them a salary, whether they fill jobs or not, many people will quit and stay. You need to make a decision, and it's not an easy decision. Is this person an asset or a liability? Because you're in business to make profits, not provide jobs for your employees. You've all got a budget, and sometimes what happens is somebody just loses their passion and they quit and stay because you're still paying them. I believe that a slump also often is the sign of somebody losing their passion for recruiting. And what we do is not brain surgery, but this is not an easy profession. It irritates me when people say, well, all you have to do is pick up a phone. Really? Well, I've spent over 20 years learning who to call and how to call and building my network. And that's what you have to do as a recruiter. You can't just like recruiting. If you've got people working for you that just like their job, or maybe they don't even like their job and they've quit and stayed, that is going to lower the morale of your entire team and your entire department. You've got to find people that are passionate. We change people's lives every single day of our life. That's what recruiters do. We change the lives of everybody that we represent, not only the candidates where we're helping them advance their career, but we're also helping companies, not giving them the best candidate in our database or the best candidate who's reading a job board ad or a website posting. We're giving them the best person for a job. That helps companies hit their goals and objectives. Our job is to make our hiring authorities look good, help them hire the best person out there. Not the best person. We can't sit there and wait for talent to come to us. We've got to go out there and find the best talent. And again, if you've got anybody that is just not working out for you, they know they're not working out. You've got to put that person on probation, give them a plan of action and micromanage them, show them what to do, because you can turn them around, or they will decide this profession is not for them. Either way, you can't have someone who is not producing that becomes that negative person that is out there telling everybody there are no people out there. Of course they are. 85% of the workforce is working. Unemployment has never been lower. It's a little over 3% right now. And so when you're just dependent on website posting and job board ads, and unfortunately, too many recruiters think a tool, that you've got to buy tools and you've got to get them more tools, to help them find people, and they learn how to write Boolean searches. There's tools out there that write Boolean searches for you that are free. You just have to keep aware of all the resources that are out there. And again, I think the best tool that a recruiter has is their own creativity and ingenuity and tenacity. to build that network, to go out there and really talk to people. They've got to talk to new people every single day and let them know what they do for a living. The best tool is your recruiter. It's their ability to go out there and be a recruiter and attract talent, get known for what they do. Their LinkedIn profile should be a mini sales letter that anybody that reads their LinkedIn profile, they want to work with that recruiter. Look at the LinkedIn profiles of the people that work for you. Do they just restate their resume, or are they a mini sales letter that tell candidates why they should talk to this particular recruiter? Now, how do you get people that are great to follow procedures? Because see, if you've got different rules for different people with different levels of experience working in your department, basically that really makes it difficult for you to enforce systems with the rest of your sales team. And I believe that every one of you, recruiting is a process. There are steps to the process. If you take shortcuts, then people ghost, you have counteroffers accepted, people no-show, people no-start. There's all kinds of things that happen, and we're always pointing the finger at the candidates. We're always saying that it's their bad behavior, and we blame the bad behavior of other people, when in essence, if you have a repeatable process, there is a repeatable recruiting process that should be followed, and everybody should be following it. That's why franchises work. If you walk into a Starbucks, they're not going to hand you a styrofoam cup, are they? They've got their certain cups with the lids. They've got a way that they their baristas make the coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so that's not a good example for me to use. But any franchise that you walk into, I did training in South Africa. I was trying to, and I did training for major corporations in South Africa, as well as a staffing and recruiting profession in South Africa. And what was interesting to me is the most successful firms in South Africa and the most successful companies, and I've trained in 7 different countries, they have a process. So what is your recruiting process? And everybody has to follow it, because how can you as a manager or owner improve things if you can't dissect your process and see where you're having a problem? If you're getting ghosted, there's a reason. If people are accepting counteroffers, there's a reason. If you're hiring people that don't get engaged, you missed something in the interview. You can't blame the population. You missed something in the interview. And you've also got to protect yourself. You don't want somebody leaving you and taking your business with them, or thinking that they can, take the candidates that they've surfaced after working for you with them. You've got several choices as a manager and owner. You can enforce systems, and sometimes that may result in somebody resigning because they want to shoot from the hip. That's not good for you. You can meet them somewhere in the middle. You can assign 2 recruiters to every hiring manager, every client, so your clients have established rapport with more than one of your employees. You can build a team around your top producers, which elevates their level of success and enhances retention. And then it's difficult for them to recreate the entire team that really is working well, filling jobs, and so they're not going to want to leave. And you've got to develop rapport with your company's top clients and hiring authorities. You should know the hiring managers. You should know your clients. You've got to know the people that your recruiting team is working with. And again, if there's different rules for different people in your company, what it does is it demotivates everybody else, because they're wondering, why do they have to follow rules? Now, I can tell you, someone who's been in talent acquisition or recruiting for years, they don't make as many calls because they don't have to. They know who to call and how to call. I always tell new people that enter the recruiting profession, look at the most successful people in our company and watch what they work and watch how they work it, but never make as many calls as they make. Make 5 times as many contacts as they make, because they did it too. When they first started, it was boot camp, and they had to go out there and establish themselves and get known for what they did. And recruiting is not an 8 to 5 job. You've got to talk to people after hours. I was at a technology conference recently, and I hear everybody screaming that they can't find .NET developers, they can't find Java people, they can't find project managers. And everybody's, there is no talent out there. Well, when I was at a technology conference recently, and there were probably 850 people in my audience, and I asked them, how many of you are open to consider a new opportunity? And like 90% of their hands went up. And I go, then let me ask you a question. Why are you so rude when recruiters reach out to you? And they go, quite frankly, because they reach out to me when I'm working, and my coworkers are sitting next to me, and my boss is in front of me, and I can't talk. All they have to do is say, give me your cell phone. I'll talk to you after hours, but don't pitch a job to me. Because do you know how job seekers feel about recruiters? They feel that we don't care about them. The workforce doesn't feel that we care about them at all. And I don't care if you're a recruiter that's doing temp or contract or direct hire. I don't care if you're a corporate recruiter. People don't feel we care about them. All they think we care about are hiring authorities and the clients we represent. And as a result, they're very guarded when they talk to us. And when, if you do have a contact and you decide, the goal of connecting with people online is to have a conversation offline. Your job cannot be done online. Technology helps us make those initial contacts, but you've got to take the conversation offline. That's when it really becomes lucrative for you. That's when you really start developing rapport and get known for what you do. You've got to take, online people offline and have conversations, but you have to have them after hours. And don't pitch a job. Have a career discussion with these individuals. Find out what's important to them and then decide if you've got the right opportunity for them. If you don't have the right opportunity for them, they become part of your database and you keep your eyes and ears open when you do have a job. Or you may reach out to one of your hiring managers that you know has a weak link in their department and talk to them about somebody that you might not have a current requisition for, but you know they would be great for your company. We've got to become more proactive. What you do as a recruiter is just as important as any other department in any company, because you're providing the talent. You're providing the people that help companies achieve their goals. Don't ever forget how important what you do is. But again, you've got to know the clients. You've got to have rapport with everybody that does business with you. Now, how do you get recruiters to upgrade clients? Now, if you're a corporate recruiter, I notice I've got some corporate recruiters on here. You can't upgrade your clients because your clients are your hiring managers, but you can upgrade the relationship you have with the hiring managers. And those of you that are in staffing and recruiting, you've got to upgrade your clients consistently, because you've got to ask everybody out there, who do you want to work for and why? Candidates know who they want to work for and why. And if you're a corporate recruiter and you're on this phone, you might think, oh my God, then what if we're not one of those companies? Then what do you have to do? When you're interviewing people, ask them the companies they want to work for and why. And where does your company rank? There's things you can do. If you ever get on one of those lists, the best places to work for, the best corporations to work for, the best places for women to employ or disabled to employ, anytime you make one of those lists, it upgrades you. And recruiters, you've got to represent those people. And again, you've got to constantly identify the hot companies. And if you're not one of those hot companies, then what can you do to become that? And this doesn't make it, I don't care what segment of the profession you're working in, candidates know where they want to work and they know why. And you've got to market them to those companies. Now, what is the quickest way to increase sales? If you have your entire team focused on what I call sendouts. A sendout to me is a candidate in front of a hiring authority first interview. This is the most important number to monitor. If I'm managing a group of recruiters or a group of talent acquisition professionals, I want to know that we're working more first interviews this week than we did last week, because nothing happens until the interviewing process starts. Nothing happens. You can interview 100 candidates and you can have 50, requisitions, but unless you're matching and unless you're getting candidates, your job as a recruiter or a person that's managing recruiters is to constantly, focus on booking interviews. That's your job. Your job every day is to do whatever you have to do to set up interviews. The more first interviews you set up, the more successful you'll be. And let me give you some tips on how to get that done. Get interviewing times and target dates when you're filling jobs. It's interesting because I've had people say, I can't get that from my hiring manager. Sure you can if they see the benefit to them. We took a job from a company recently and they said they had to hire by the end of October. And then when we asked for interviewing times, nobody was available to interview till November. And so that changed the target date. If you get interviewing times and a target date to fill, now you know when to start the recruiting efforts. Only interview candidates that have skills, stability, and experience. Develop resources for the candidates you can't hire. But you've got to focus on the people that have the skills, stability, experience that your hiring authorities are going to hire. We place or hire a very small percentage of the people that we attract. You've got to have repeatable systems that work. Your referral process should be a process, your onboarding, your engagement process, your recruiting process, your interviewing process. There has to be a process, repeatable systems. And you've got to provide your sales team with expectations. What can they expect from you as the owner or manager? And what do you expect of them? I know I was guilty of that, where I would say they're just not working up to my expectations. And then I realized I didn't tell them what I expected. And so how were they supposed to know? You've got to conduct revenue modeling to determine your best business. What is the business that when you write it, you're going to fill it? And how do you pipeline candidates in advance? All of you know what jobs hit your desk all the time. And you just go, ugh, this is such a tough job to fill. But if you know you're always going to get it, pipeline in advance. Develop referral programs. And your referral programs somebody should be in charge of them. They should have a theme. Everybody should know about them. Everybody should promote them. You've got to do training around your referral programs. I spoke at the CEO conference last year, and they asked me to do a program on developing a referral program. And I was shocked because I had major corporations at that CEO conference, and I was amazed at how many major companies did not have much of a referral program. And all they had to do was make, 6 or 7 tweaks. And now 40% of their employees that they hire are the result of referrals. And that's what it should be, by the way. 40% of who you hire should be the result of referred candidates, referred clients. Have your sales team, again, write down those 10 non-negotiable goals with dated action items. If you do nothing more, if you want your team to be more successful, if you do nothing more than that one idea, just have your team write down their goals. They're going to get more successful for their own reasons. That will change your life, because now you don't have to motivate people. They're looking, and the goals need to be posted where they work, and they're looking at that all day long, and they know if they get more successful that they can achieve those things. And you've got to provide continual training, because things are changing so fast. It was interesting. I spoke at an ERE conference. I spoke at Recruit Max, Recruit Con. I'm trying to think of the other conferences. And 3 of these events I was at last year. And so when I was speaking this year, I had people comment that you did not tell us one thing this year that you did last year. And I said, well, number one, I never do that. I never go to a conference and give the same information, because, there could be people that are attending. And obviously you guys were here last year. And I said, but so much has changed in the last year. I mean, it's unbelievable to me how fast things are changing. So of course we've got to upgrade our training. We've got to upgrade how we're teaching our recruiters, because things are changing, and there's so many free tools. Stop investing in tools because somebody thinks that this is going to make their job easier, because unfortunately many of the tools are extremely expensive, and they're only going after that same 15% again. You've got to figure out, how do I get to the people that are working that want to make a change for the new opportunity? And I want to discuss something else with you, because I think we have to discuss the new generation in the workforce, okay? Because there is a new generation in your office. There's a new generation in the workforce. There's a new generation that are now hiring, and I think this is the most over-scrutinized, over-judged generation I've ever seen. And I'm a baby boomer, and I happen to look at what the millennials are offering, and I see some tremendous talent, but they weren't raised the way I was raised. And they didn't go to their parents for advice. Every generation before the millennials, when they wanted to know something, they went to their parents for information. And the millennials went to YouTube. They feel they're smarter than everybody else because they do provide tech support for all the generations before them. And they've been taught that they're smarter and better, and they have access to more information than we do. And again, yes, they may ask to bring their dog to work, but to be real honest with you, I bring my dog to work. So I see nothing wrong with that when it's doable. Don't automatically cross things off. I want to give you a great example. I was in a company, and this was a very large venture capital firm. And I was doing some training for them. And they asked me to sit on in an interview because they were hiring a recruiter. And I said, sure, I'll sit in on your interview. Well, this young man came in, and he said, they were interviewing him, and he was great. I mean, he had been a recruiter for 1.5 years. He had done recruiting. He actually had some military service and had done recruiting for them too. So he had the discipline and had a college degree, and after they were getting to the interview, I could tell they were very interested in the person by the way they were asking questions. And then he said, there is one thing, I have to bring my dog to work. And they said, why do you have to bring your dog to work? And he has said, as a result of my service, I do have, at SPD, whatever that is. All of a sudden my mind's a blank, but he has a a dog that must be with him. And he goes, I have to bring my dog to work. And so when he walked out, I was with one of the hiring managers, and I was with one of the recruiting managers, and instantly the hiring manager said, that is such BS. They all say they need, a dog. They all, this is ridiculous. Everybody, gives us reasons why they have to bring animals to work. I don't want an animal in my department. And I said, okay, did you listen to his background? Did you listen to what he's currently doing? And he's working currently for one of your competitors, and he staffed their IT department with over 60 people, and he did it in 10 months. And I go, did you listen to that? And he goes, well, that's ridiculous. And he goes, I'm not going to let him bring the dog to work. So when the hiring manager walked out, I looked at the person, the recruiting manager that was sitting there, and I said, if he doesn't want to hire that person, you've got to hire that person in your department, and maybe, he doesn't believe in the dog, but the dog's not going to be in his department. The dog is going to be working for you. I would hire this person in a heartbeat. And she said, are you serious? And I said, in a heartbeat. I said, now check references in that, but I think you've interviewed an overachiever. And she said, I know he's going to be angry if I do this, but we do have some dogs, and we do have some of them in our company, and I don't see anything wrong with it. Well, it was interesting because that was probably, I forget how long ago that was when I was there. That guy has turned out to be a rock star with them. I mean, he is doing a phenomenal job for them. And she said, what's really funny is the hiring manager was not happy with me when I hired them. And he said, but because of the job he's doing for all of us, like, we're just amazed. And you really taught us a lesson. I had an employee, just for all of your information, I've never had this happen to me. We hired somebody, and I had somebody show up on their first day of employment and bring their college roommate with them, thinking that they thought they would be a good fit for my company. And so I've never had that happen. I've never had somebody show up on their first day of employment with a friend and basically telling us that they'd like us to hire their friend. Well, my manager, when the person showed up for the first day of employment, came into my office and said, are you ready for this? I don't know if we hire the right person. And I go, what are you talking about? She's going to be great. And she said, well, she showed up with her best friend today and expects us to interview her. And I told her we don't have time. So I have her filling out some paperwork, but I'm really questioning the logic of this person we just hired. And I said, you know what, let's just interview her. I said, I really feel strong in the person we just hired. And if she said, this is her college roommate, she has the same characteristics, what is it going to take to do a quick interview? Well, my manager goes, I'm not interviewing her. And I said, okay, then I will. And she goes, you don't have room on your calendar. And I said, make room, because I think we have to be flexible. We can't be so set in our ways. And who knew if that person was going to be great or not? Well, as it turns out, we put the person through our interview process, which does take 3 weeks. We ended up hiring our new employee's roommate from college. They are two of my best employees, and the roommate is better than the original person we hired. And so it's not always going to work out that way. And it did take me back. But if you hire people from the millennial generation and they love working for you, they will tell their friends. And this generation, like I said, makes up over 50% of the workforce. And another thing about the generation is they may ask you about career advancement before they've even mastered the basics of your job. But they bring a lot to the table. And most importantly, they now represent over 50% of the workforce, including hiring managers and clients. Okay. And one thing you've got to know about them, they put a very high value on the core values of your business. And so when you're presenting a job to them, I've actually started next year, I'm going to change the way that we're writing requisitions, the way that we're writing job orders or contracts or assignments. We've got to change the way we're writing them because the typical skill-based job requisition is no longer working. It just doesn't work. Because think about this for a minute. If you've got a list of skills in a job description, and that's the rec you're working off of, and it's a list of skills, and you're going out there and you're trying to find someone who's done the job that has a list of skills, what you're presenting to them is a lateral move. You're not presenting career advancement, and chances are they're going to ghost the interview, or they'll ghost your conversation, or they'll interview with you, but then they're not going to start because they don't see it's a career advancement for them. We've got to start identifying performance objectives, and we've got to start writing recs a little bit differently. Again, if you want to hire that above average, person, because again, for whether it's working for you in your own department or working for someone else, we're judged on the caliber of candidate that all of us represent, which is why, yes, your people can do more, but will they? But you've got to show them how to change what they're doing, because the job market has changed, everything has changed, and it'll continue changing. Every time I turn around, there's a new make or break job board, or there's a new make or break thing that everybody wants. And when I look at them, I realize that no, that actually is sending my recruiters in the wrong direction. So, you as the manager or owner really have to stay cutting edge on everything that's going out there. My final question to you is, do you offer comprehensive, consistent training to your team? If you do, I have to commend you, because I'm always shocked when I go into companies and see that there's no budget for training, or if there is a budget, it hasn't been spent. If you don't, what I want to do real quickly here before I answer your questions is I want to show you something that basically is a turnkey comprehensive solution to training, especially if training is not best use of your valuable time. And we offer so many different types of training programs, but our core program is a top producer tutor, and it has web-based training. It includes live weekly training webinars with me where I answer questions. It provides bi-weekly coaching calls, an extensive resource library of training, and much more. And so if you contact us to schedule a 30-minute demo, my team would walk you through this and let you log in. You'll log in and click around to see if this is the type of training that you need, or we have many different training resources available. But if you don't have structured training, what I want to say to you is that's kind of a given for the millennials and Gen X and Gen Z. They want training. They want to learn. They want to advance. And if anybody does invest in my top producer tutor before October 21st, I have a strategic management tutor that shows you how to manage individuals that are in the recruiting profession. And if in fact you invest in our tutor program, you will get our strategic management tutor free. And I always like to throw something else when I'm on the phone, and I've got people that have participated in a training webinar. Our tutor has seats, like there's a seat for every person that takes the course, and the seat is $50. And so for the first 5 people that set up a demo and actually end up investing in our tutor, I will give you 5 free seats. So $250 on top of these other offers that we've got. Again, if you have training, I think that's awesome. Our training, we constantly change it. What I'm doing right now over the next few months is I'm converting all my training to 100% video, because I know that's where I have to go. We've got some now, but I've been in a studio now for 3.5 months. And so not only will you get the tutor as it stands now, when we release the new pure video training, you will get that as well. Any upgrades I do, you get them at no cost. And so I did want to throw that out there as well. So now I think is the most important part of the call, and that's basically questions that you have for me. You can ask me questions about anything that I said here today, questions that you have about your team, about recruiting. Your questions can be about anything at all. You can ask me questions one of 2 ways. And by the way, we will send out a recording to this call for everybody that that is on this line. That 5 seat only goes for the first 5 people that call that set up a demo. And the demo is going to take 30 minutes of your time. So even if you don't know if you're interested or not, if you set up a demo, then you can develop something similar to what I have, because mine is a repeatable process. So if you just want to look at it to get more ideas for your program, I have no problem with you doing that. I share everything I have with everybody because I want all of us to get better at this job. So you can go to the control panel on your right, and if you put in a PIN number, phone number, and access code, you can click that round circle with a question mark. I can unmute your lines, and you and I can talk. Or you can go down below, and you see the word questions. If you type in a question there, I can read your question. And again, I see a number of questions. And so if you don't want me to use your first name, though, please, please put a confidential or anonymous. Okay, I find this interesting. So I have to ask, how do you retain high-achieving recruiters and employees in a country that mostly pays the federal minimum for a job that should be paid at least double? In my country, Puerto Rico, the minimum wage is $7.25, usually for a recruiter job. So recruiters of all kinds of employees are leaving companies due to being underpaid. How do I retain employees in a country that has a dramatic economic state will not running my own company and paying them fairly. I think what you have to do is, if in fact you're faced with you're not paying your recruiters a lot of money, or you don't feel you're able to pay them what they're worth, you got to do some studying. There's statistics out there that show what average recruiters are being paid right now. And corporate recruiters are being paid more money, for sure. And so are recruiters. Now, recruiters that are in part of staffing and recruiting firms, often they have a low salary, but they get commissions on top of that. So I think you've got to meet with the individuals that make these decisions and show them how they're losing the best talent, because you can't attract the best recruiters. Let's see, will we have access to the recording? Yes, Tracy, I'm going to send out the recording as soon as we get it from our tech team. Do you have any training on fees? Waiting to switch our firms? Yes, I train on, that's more owner training. I also do consulting with people, and if it's something that's a one-spot deal, it's probably cheaper to get an hour of consulting with me than it is to buy a training program. But tell us what your training needs are, and we customize our training needs around the needs of what you have. Even conventions, when they call me, they always want a list of what I do. And I'm like, I basically, I customize every program I do for the audience I'm addressing. You mentioned a referral program for clients. Can you share some more details? What we do, if a client refers another client to us, we actually donate to their favorite charity in their name, because clients cannot take gifts, because of Sarbanes-Oxley and everything else, but we do have a very succinct referral program. We sent them an invitation inviting them to participate. And the referral program is in my tutor. So if you invest in our training program, there's an outline there. It's a copy of the invitation, a plaque. We walk you through step-by-step how to do it. But we just donate to people's favorite charity in their name that benefits everybody. It benefits the charity. Most people are philanthropic. I think people in the recruiting profession, I don't care what you do in the recruiting profession or talent acquisition profession, we're great people. We care about other people. That's why we went into this profession. And so the fact that we can donate to, people's worthy causes in their name really resonates with hiring authorities. I'm a one-mouth shop with people who sporadically, let's see. Oh, you're wanting to know who to hire first. What I would do, David, if you have to look at where you have the greatest need. Sometimes your first hire needs to be somebody who is just going to do what you shouldn't be doing. And you can use Fiverr, Fiverr. You could use, Upwork. Sometimes you can hire people virtually that can do some work for you. If you've got too many openings you're trying to fill, hire someone that's going to do nothing but recruiting on all the openings that you have. Teach them half of the profession. Teach them the recruiting half. Let's see. I would like to schedule a demo. Okay, do me a favor, Dave. Call my office, because when I log out of this, what they're going to do is we lose the Q&A when we get out of this. So Dave, if you would call my office when we're done. I have your name down as one of the first 5 though. So if you invest, you would get 5 free seats as well. But if you could just call my office, or I've got an email on the screen right now. If you could email them and tell them you want to set up a demo, they'll do that for you. Thank you for the information. I've enjoyed this webinar. I learned more in this hour than I've learned in 5 years in my profession. Can I take your LinkedIn courses? Yes. All of my if you go to LinkedIn Learning and just type in Barb Bruno, all my courses pop up. What to do if 10 goals are unrealistic? You will know if their goals are unrealistic, Jesse, when they can't do the 5 steps to attain the goal. So if somebody sets a goal and they can't give 5 steps that are going to help them attain the goal, they got to change the goal. So by making them do 5 steps, and they have to realize that the steps have to be attainable, that's what really helps it not be unrealistic. Our recruiters work virtual, and we have recruiters who are fairly new to us. Is there anything else you said to improve motivation and accountability? I'll tell you what, Olivia, I've got, and my recruiting team is now virtual, because I had my firm in Chicago, Illinois. I moved it to Indiana with my training company. And so I have 8 recruiters that work with me virtual. And you're right, it is a whole different ballgame. And in fact, it was interesting. I had an individual, Jordan Rayboy, who did a program, because he has all virtual recruiters. And that also is, you have to manage virtual people, I think, more than you do people that are in the office, because you can't hear them. And, and so there has to be much more accountability, and you motivate them, get their goals, help them attain the goals, but there has to be consequences if things aren't hit. A lot of people that work in an office and then go virtual, they lose their productivity, sometimes by 2/3. How would you work with a business owner who has been in business from the 1980s, does not factor in changes in technology and millennials? What you got to do is you got to get them to some of my calls that I do, because I'm telling you, or just, get them to do an hour of consulting with me, because I'm telling you, if you don't change anything, you're going to get run over by your competition. Things are changing so fast. I can barely keep up with them. And I not only speak at 25 conferences a year, I attend them to keep my own knowledge up to date. And I'm amazed at how fast things are changing. I have a small recruiting team to concentrate on hiring hourly workers, implementing a referral program. Any other thoughts on places to source these hourly candidates? The best place you can sort, you got to ask candidates. Everybody you interview, ask them where they go when they're looking for a job, because candidates will uncover free resources for you that you can use. Because where do they hang out online? I used to place people in the steel mills in Northwest Indiana. That's where I started. That's all I did were laborers and forklift drivers. And that's what I did for 10 years of my career, many years ago. And they were all bowlers. And so I sponsored 17 bowling leagues and got so many referrals through the bowling leagues. So where do they hang out now? Is it the Moose Lodge? Is it the American Legion Post? Where do these people hang out? You've got to go where they go. You've got to hang out where they hang out online. Ask your candidates where they go, where they hang out, what resources they use. And that's a great way to find out new resources to use to find candidates. What is your biggest tip to motivate recruiters from staffing firms whose main focus is filling high volume light industrial? I think that you've got to come up, Tracy, with bonuses, with incentives when they hit new levels of production, because that is they feel like a hamster on a wheel, and you really have to show them your gratitude and them being willing to work that type of environment that is really high stress. It's high volume, fast paced, and it's horrible. Let's see, does your LinkedIn training work if we are using the free version? No, my LinkedIn training, there's LinkedIn and then there's LinkedIn Learning. So my training is not in LinkedIn. LinkedIn actually bought Lynda, L-Y-N-D-A. Lynda was the largest online training company in the world. And LinkedIn bought Lynda 5 years ago. Now Microsoft bought LinkedIn Learning, although LinkedIn Learning kept the name. So the training company that is an arm of LinkedIn actually got purchased by Microsoft, but they've kept the name LinkedIn Learning. It has nothing to do with the LinkedIn program that you're using to recruit. So this is totally separate. It's LinkedIn Learning. So if you Google LinkedIn Learning and then put Barb Bruno, it'll show you all my courses. By the way, all of you connect with me on LinkedIn, because 2 weeks ago, LinkedIn Learning let me I got to give my first course I ever did, the recruiting fundamentals. I could offer it free for 24 hours. This is the second time they've let me do this. They let me do this 6 months ago. They let me do it 2 weeks ago, where I could go in and release a course to all my LinkedIn followers on LinkedIn. The problem is they tell me the morning of, and I only have it for 24 hours. So what I do, 2 or 3 weeks ago, in fact, I was at a convention when we were told that it was going to be released. So I told everybody at the convention, connect with me on LinkedIn right now, because I'm releasing a course tomorrow and it's going to be good for 24 hours and you can watch it free. But the courses, you can buy them separately, and they're very reasonably priced if you buy one at a time separately, or you can join LinkedIn for X amount of dollars a month and then you can take any of their courses. But LinkedIn Learning has courses on like photography and search engine. They have courses on everything. I just happen to be developing courses. I've developed 14 courses for them on recruiting, and I'm developing 2 more that I'm recording on the 20th of this month. Let's see, suggestions for motivational contests. I gave a couple suggestions, but you got to find out from your team what motivates them. It depends on the age bracket, but sometimes time off is the best motivator, or the ability to work virtual 1 day a week if they hit certain parameters, but then they have to hit the parameters the next month if they keep wanting that. So it depends on the age of your team, and it depends on, a lot, and if you have them write their goals and the 5 dated action items, any contest that can help them achieve, an action item on their goals is very motivating. I see nothing wrong with having individual contests either. So the more you individualize things, the better. But I also guarantee that these calls are not going to take more than an hour. We've got roughly 10 more minutes. So if any of you have any questions, let me go back and see if anybody raised their hand before I go back to the printed questions. Okay, back to printed. How many people can be on the demo? This is from Frank. As many as you want, and we give you access to the program to click around. I have a office of tenured, stubborn, old school recruiters. Would your training help them? I basically developed this program originally for people that were going to be new in the profession entering it, and then realized that new people would take it, and within 2 to 3 weeks, they put all their recruiters on it because it helps everybody. I've got recruiters in this program that have recruited for 20 or 30 years. And when they realize how it benefits them to change things, people will change, but you've got to be consistent. If you just give them one new thing to change every month, it takes 21 days to form a new habit. And that's why I repeat things through the tutor is 80 days of training, and it's just a short stint of training every day for 80 days. And I repeat a number of things over and over again that I want them to learn, because I'm trying to get that, if I brainwash certain things that are going to make them more successful, what is it? And there's certain things in there that are repeated for that reason. I want them to remember certain things. But, again, you'll motivate people for their own reasons. Look at what they want to do. The minute of your people write down their goals, now you know what to do. Your floor plan's right in front of you, but it's the action items that give you where you should put. But millennials love to leave early on Friday. Love it. Maybe you don't have a bring your dog to work policy, but if you hit certain goals, you can bring your dog to work the next month. Or if you've got a lot of young mothers working for you, offer to pay for, or offset their daycare if they achieve certain levels of success with you. So you got to customize it for the people that work for you. This is from Cynthia. This was an amazing call. How can I sign up for your next call? If you follow me on LinkedIn, that's where I announce free calls all the time. I announce this through LinkedIn. If you buy our tutor, you get a call like this once a week. And so do your people. Plus, you can tell me what topics you want to hear. People that own my tutor, I get all the topics, the weekly topics from our tutor clients. So they tell me what they want. Barb, I would like 1 hour of your time. This is confidential. How can I arrange it? You'd call the same number. No matter any question you have about any kind of training, just call that number, and my team can answer any questions that you have. All right, I see no more questions. Let me go see if there's any hands being raised. None. I hope you got some information here that you can use. This is the last quarter of the year. You want to set up 2020 with some momentum. You've got hiring budgets. You've got to spend them by the end of the year. If you're a recruiter, you've got to set yourself up so you go into 2020 with a lot of second and third interviews. You don't want to end the year with nobody in the pipeline. So thanks for joining me, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the training, and I look forward to hearing from a lot of you, and hopefully you'll be joining me weekly on our weekly training webinars. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.